Welcome back. You're watching Weekend Live on SABC2. Now, in this morning's feature on design and architecture, architect Phillippa Tumubweinee took us to a building that epitomizes space utilization in urban areas like Johannesburg. That's the Gallery MOMO in Parktown.
We're in Parktown North at MOMO Gallery, and this is probably one of my favorite buildings in Johannesburg, and mainly because, A, for the construction of it, but also because of the way the architect has used this space to actually realize the concept behind this gallery. If you look on, this is 7th in Parktown North, most of the shops and displays or offices are very closed off from the street. So you have very little interaction between the street and the architecture. And what the architect Sarah Calburn has managed to do with this particular building is actually, by opening up the entire facade of the boundary wall with a slide-away gate, she has sort of brought the street into the gallery, which is almost a showcase of the street as a work of art. So you have a gallery that's got traditional art, and then you also have the street that then becomes part of that experience, which is why I actually enjoy this space a lot. That's important because architecture is more than just bricks and mortar. Architecture is actually about space. It's about experiencing a space, and the bricks and mortar and the columns and beams just allow for that experience within any space. So that's why this is one of my favorite buildings. This was a sort of old house, the old sort of Parktownian style housing. And what the architect has managed to do is, while retaining the integrity of the old house, has introduced a new, vibrant, appropriate style and language. So if you look at the facade of the building, it's very clean, it's very slick. So that becomes the introduction to the street. Whereas behind that, the original house has been maintained, whereby they've removed some of the walls that now form partitions and some of the display walls, and she's then stripped the ceiling, and up in the ceiling then is a little office. So it's reinterpreting the use of that house in a sort of new, appropriate, contemporary way. If you look at the detailing of the slab, which has been extended out of the facade of the building with the metal trim around it, that just sort of accentuates the plane on which this gallery sits. So it's almost like you elevate the gallery, and by elevating the floor plane and then accentuating that, you create a very distinct base, almost like a floating plane. So the building then starts to look like it's floating, because that's the detail that you read, and that starts to become interesting. The use of the rounded words, Gallery MOMO, as opposed to the very rectilinear facade, also start to become interesting elements that the architect uses. And then obviously the black frame doors against the internal white walls become a very interesting contrast in terms of color and aesthetic detail that she's using in this design. This building, in my opinion, is one of the better buildings because it is relevant, it is appropriate, and it addresses the issues that, as designers, we face in Johannesburg.